If you're talking about it, I'll be talking about it. Dennis Prager here. Join me this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy were talking about it a bit earlier. First gubernatorial debate last night, NBC5, Telemundo, the sponsors. All four candidates, Pritzker, Rauner, and then the two third-party candidates included Cash Jackson, the Libertarian.
Did you say Cash Jackson? My name's Cash.
And
Cash Jackson.
And I'd like to share this little ditty I wrote. And Sam McCann, state senator from
Sam, I am.
downstate Illinois, Springfield area, west to the St. Louis border, and gubernatorial candidate under the Conservative Party banner.
Yes. And Bruce Rauner, Governor Rauner, doesn't like that too much. Thinks he's a Democratic plant, a Madigan plant.
And Carol, let me also say, Mr. McCann has been given far too much airtime in this discussion. He is a phony candidate.
Get used to it, brother.
He has received
Get used to it.
funding from Mike Madigan
Get
for his
used to it.
campaign. He was put on the ballot by Mike Madigan's attorney.
You're a
He
liar.
has
You've been
one
lying to the
purpose.
people of Illinois from the very beginning. You
Mr.
said you would have no
McCann
social agenda, and all you've been able to accomplish is to
Mr.
make yourself
McCann,
the most progressive,
Mr.
liberal
McCann.
governor the state of Illinois has ever had.
Mr.
You're a
McCann.
liar and a thief.
Senator,
Mr.
you'll have
McCann,
a
are you
chance.
getting paid on a per interruption basis by Madigan or on a lump sum?
Here, I'm getting paid by the people to be here today.
He has
Take
one
back for
purpose
the
on
people.
being on that stage and to help Mr. Pritzker be victorious for Mike
No,
Madigan.
we're
That's
here,
why
we're
Mr.
here to
McCann
take
is
both
here.
of you out. Because you signed the Trust Act, we're going to repeal the
I
Trust
have
Act.
another question.
And that shrill voice you heard interrupting the two gentlemen was Carol Maureen.
Yes.
Oof, boy. Worst voice, Adam Levine or Carol Maureen?
Oh, come on.
Which voice would be more likely to make lobsters cry or doves cry?
Stop it.
For more on this topic, per that exchange, we're pleased to be joined by the aforesaid State Senator Sam McCann, gubernatorial candidate under the Conservative Party banner. Sam, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. Thank you for having me.
Some testy exchanges last night between you and Rauner. I suppose no surprise there, but to the charge of you being funded by Madigan, you being the only reason that you are in the race is to help Pritzker win, you respond how?
The reason I'm in the race is I feel called to run, I feel called to lead, and we want to save Illinois from the progressive cesspool that Bruce Rauner and Mike Madigan and J.B. Pritzker have brought and will continue to bring Illinois into. They've drug us into the cesspool. They're going to keep us in the cesspool. I don't know Mike Madigan. I think I've met the man twice in my life, very briefly, both times. This is an excuse of a failed governor, a liar, a man who says those veterans who died in the Quincy Veterans Home, you know what, we did all we could. We did everything right. I wouldn't change a thing. That's what he and his director of public health, Nirav Shah, have said. This man is a failure. I hope and pray to God. I hope and pray to God that the Republican Party and that the voters as a whole of Illinois have enough sense to send the man packing.
Well, just with respect to the charge that you're being funded by or financed by Madigan, is the underlying evidence that Rauner's using to support that claim that you're being supported by the operating engineers, Local 150?
Evidently, I guess you'd have to ask him, but then again, you would be asking him to comment on fact and not innuendo, and I think he's incapable of doing that. So we are proud to have, I think the very first question I received from the moderator was, you're being funded by the operating engineers. What say you? I'm very proud to be supported by working men and women from across the state and across the nation. I think it's very telling that Governor Rauner thinks it's okay for him to take a $20 million contribution from the richest man in the state. That's okay. No problem. Let's go in the back room and have a martini, and you give me $20 million, and I'll put that in my campaign account. But he somehow thinks it's wrong for working people to throw $10 or $20 a paycheck in to the pot to have a voice in politics and then support me and others. And I think a lot of folks forget that right now they are supporting the House Republican organization, the
Right.
Senate Republican.
Yeah.
They're supporting the Senate Republican organization, but Bruce Rauner's not.
Okay.
And they ran Judy Barr Topinka's 2006 campaign out of their headquarters, essentially. this organization has had a storied history of supporting both sides of the aisle.
That's true.
As it should be.
That's true.
So connect the dots for us. How is it that he claims that you're a Madigan plant? Because you're taking money from whom or what group?
What dots are there to connect? There are no dots. I mean, I can't. Bruce Rauner, I think he's lost his mind, quite frankly.
With respect to Rauner,
I mean, he said Jeannie Ives was a tool of Madigan.
Yeah,
I mean,
Madigan,
right?
You
think so?
Well, see, this is the problem that Rauner has, and obviously I was part of Jeannie Ives' campaign, so I don't think so. Like anybody, frankly, nobody actually thinks so. Some people just think it was acceptable for Rauner to make up that lie about Jeannie Ives to fool enough people for just long enough to get the nomination. That's the real story with that primary, as you well know, and it leads me perfectly to this question, because Rauner's complaining about you being in the race to help Pritzker win. The question is, would you even be in the race if Rauner had not signed taxpayer funding of abortion on demand, if Rauner had not signed sanctuary state, if Rauner had not presided over a third of the Republican caucus in the House voting for the largest state income tax increase in history, if Rauner had not handled the Quincy Veterans Home catastrophe the way that he handled it, would you even be in the race?
No, I would not. I mean, this is akin to the first officer taking control of the ship because the captain has lost his mind and is totally incompetent. Trust me, I've been there. I've been there for 7.5 years. I term limited myself when I ran the first time. I said I would serve no more than 10 years in the state Senate, and then I would go home. At the end of this term will be 8 years, and I'm going home regardless of how this race turns out. Sam McCann is not going to be involved in the state Senate. I term limited myself. I held true to that commitment, and the reason I'm running is because folks, whomever is out there listening, if you think this guy is a Republican or a conservative or has any concern or any care for you or the way that law-abiding, tax-paying citizens of this state are getting by, he doesn't. He's a part of the problem. He and Madigan are destroying the state. Again, I think he is truly. Think about what he has signed and accomplished when it comes to the social progressive agenda. Pat Quinn had gay marriage. I voted no on that. Pat Quinn did get gay marriage done. Mm-hmm. But the list goes on ad infinitum for Bruce Rauner when it comes to the progressive social agenda that he has provided.
I like the.
This is the one thing he said he wouldn't do, and that's the only thing he has done.
Yeah, I like the imagery of the first officer taking the helm from the. So it's like Rauner's Captain Queeg.
Oh.
We're rolling those steel balls around. Of course, we know Diana holds those steel balls for him. She only lets him roll them around when she says so.
Yeah, so Sam McCann, we learned last night, Pritzker spent $126 million of his own dollars. Bruce Rauner, $94 million. And you said, what, it's a really good return on your investment. How much have you spent? How much money have you taken from your own coffers in your gubernatorial bid?
We are somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million right now.
Okay.
And
did you like the response? I mean, she asked them a question about that. They seem to dance around the subject. And, of course, Governor Rauner brought up that his grandparents from the province of Wisconsin via Sweden grew up in a double wide.
Yeah, he's every man for sure. We all know it. Right?
And Pritzker uses a double wide toilet. So that's what they have in common. So let me ask you this, Sam. We've spent some time talking about Rauner and Madigan. What about Pritzker? I mean, what's your assessment of Spalding, as I call him?
It's just going to be more of the same, right? Again, a lot of times people will say, "Well, Sam, why are we always talking about Rauner with you and not Pritzker?" Well, first of all, it's what people want to provoke, right? I mean, whether it's not. I'm not just talking about you guys. I'm talking about anyone involved with the press. They want to pick that scab to make a story, and I guess I get that, right? It's easy ground to plow. It's soft ground, but another reason, I guess, that we don't talk about Pritzker quite as much is because he is a Chicago progressive liberal, a part of the Madigan machine, and everybody knows. I mean, he can't even give a straight answer on whether Madigan should be there or not. When asked, should Madigan still be there? Well, I think, and he goes off into some 5-minute dissertation on 10th grade civics. Of course, I'm not for Pritzker. That's why I'm running. is because either way, you get the machine. If the people of Chicago, the suburbs, and downstate Illinois think that machine politics has been good to Illinois, then you have a couple of options. You can vote for Pritzker or Rauner. If you want to do something different, if you want a governor who will actually govern with a downstate perspective, a perspective that will restore the entire state to solvency, vote for me.
Let me ask you a question about the public sector unions in this new post-Janus era. If you were governor, would you aid and assist people who want to opt out of union membership and now do not want to pay fair share dues and now can under Janus? Would you help them, or would you be siding with the public sector unions to misinterpret the ruling as an opt-out versus actually having to opt in? I mean, what it should be right now is everybody's out, and you have to opt in if you want to be a member of SEIU or AFSCME or the teachers' unions. But, of course, that's not the way the public sector unions are interpreting it purposely. So where would you come down?
I would stand on the side of the Constitution. I mean, quite frankly, Dan, obviously, I know the Janus decision. I'm intimate with the decision, but I think let me try to answer it this way. And if you don't like it, I will come back and I'll try to answer the way that you want me to. But last night, I noticed that Mr. Jackson said he made a comment talking about how the legislature plays a role in having people appointed that oversee these agencies. You know, I think a common misperception in state government is that the legislature has a role in signing contracts and hiring people. We don't. We don't have a role in administering state government. And so my focus has been especially the last 5 months, has been doing the job of the state senator and simultaneously campaigning for governor. So I don't view the role of the governor of the state of Illinois to help to tip the scales in any way, shape, or form. The job of the governor is not to put his thumb on the scales. It's to do the best job he can to deliver his constitutional pledge and oath for all the people of Illinois.
But the law is that people do not have to pay fair share dues, and they should. The Supreme Court decision, and of course the devil's in the implementation. That they have to opt in if they want to continue to be a member of the public sector union. So right now you have a lot of people opting out, maybe as much as 10%. You're going to act in furtherance of the spirit of the Supreme Court decision in Janus or not?
Yeah, most definitely. We will act within and towards the spirit of the decision. Now, I have always taken my role as the state senator for the district with more public employees, more state employees than any other member of the General Assembly very seriously. That doesn't mean that those folks have more rights or more representation. It just means that I understand the gravity of the fact that those people sent me there. And actually, most of those people are Republicans. You know, I think that's something that a lot of folks, especially, and no offense, I'm not trying to be geographically offensive here, but especially up here in the northeastern part of the state, forget is that most of the state assets are downstate. You know, the prisons, the facilities, the infrastructure, and that means that most of the public employees are downstate. And by definition, and most of those public employees, many of them are veterans, or that we have veterans hiring practices here. We've had veterans preference hiring practices. So these people, I got to tell you, most of the people who I know who are working in state government are very conservative Republicans, and most of them, many of them, don't even agree with what the leadership of their own unions do. I've never been for the leadership of the union. I've never stood up for that. I don't know very many leaders of very many unions. Certainly not the private sector, the public sector ones. What I am for is for working people, whether you're a union member or not, or a non-union worker, whether you're public or private, whether you're blue collar or white collar. I'm for working people. And I think that's a message that all conservatives should be able to get behind. So again, my role as governor would not be to tip the scales for either side, and it would be to administer government in a statutorily and constitutionally correct manner.
All right. He is State Senator Sam McCann, Conservative Party candidate for governor. Sam, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. God bless you. Have a great weekend.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy